Hello, beautiful peaches. Welcome to the Macros, Metabolism, and Motivation Beautiful Peach podcast. I'm your host, Caitlen, here to help you find your most unwavering love, beauty, and kindness for yourself inside and out. I will be teaching you nutrition and macro tracking secrets, reverse diet and metabolism health tips and tricks, and motivating the heck out of you so you will want to leap up and start conquering your goals right away. I am here to help bring you the light at the end of the tunnel so you can discover that self-love and truly become the most confident, beautiful peach possible. So grab a pen and a piece of paper, or if you're in the car or at the gym, go ahead and bump up your volume just a little so we can drown out those gym grunters next to you, and we can go ahead and dive right in. Don't forget to snag your completely free high-protein macro cookbook by simply doing a 5-star rate and review on this podcast. All you need to do is submit a 5-star rate and review, then send us your name and email through the link in the show notes so we know exactly where to send your cookbook. By submitting your 5-star rate review, this will also automatically enter you into the weekly podcast macro calculator giveaway. Every week, I give away a copy of my C. U. Schmidt macro calculator to one lovely winner who leaves an awesome 5-star rate and review. This winner is announced every week on my Instagram story as well as my newsletter email list. So leave that 5-star rate and review, and I'll see you in the episode. What is up, my beautiful, beautiful peach? Today, we are going to be talking about overcoming the all or nothing mentality. This is a mentality that I have personally struggled with in my own journey, and I went through a very large amount of healing to get free from that all or nothing mentality. So in this episode, I'm actually going to talk through my own personal journey as well as different triggers that can cause the all or nothing mentality and give you 4 action steps to help you start working your way out of that mentality as well. If you have not listened to podcast episode 91 and 92, I highly suggest checking those out. I wouldn't necessarily say you have to listen to those in order to listen to this episode, but I think they are really great because they talk through why your calorie deficit has not been working and how it might be slowing down your metabolism, as well as how to reverse dieting one-on-one. If you haven't listened to those, go ahead and listen to those. You can go ahead and listen to them next. But without further ado, let's dive on into the episode. Overcoming the all or nothing diet mentality. When we are dieting, we are actually creating food rules or following food rules, following food guidelines, things that we can or cannot eat. So dieting often comes with accessory food rules based on which diet you are doing. For example, if we are doing keto, we cannot eat carbs. If we are doing Whole30, we have a strict list of foods that we are, quote unquote, able to eat. If we are doing intermittent fasting, we have to eat during a certain period of time. If we are doing some sort of 30-day challenge, we cannot have sugar and alcohol. If we are doing 21-day fix, we only can eat foods that can fit into our tiny little boxes. And the problem with this is that we don't normally do just one diet and then we're done. It is very rare that that happens. The reason because we don't actually hit our goal that we want to reach when we're dieting. So we don't actually hit that end goal. And we say, all right, keto's not working, and you jump on to the next one. And when you dive into Whole30, but then that doesn't work. So on to the next one. And it usually turns out that we're jumping to the next current popular diet. I believe Noom was more popular last year. Now I feel like Optavia might be. There's quite literally always something new going on. And we're so desperately hoping that we are going to finally land on this last diet that is going to work for us. We are just fingers crossed, toes crossed, eyes crossed, everything crossed. We are desperately hoping that this last diet is going to be the one that is going to give us that long-term change. But we are on the wrong train. We are on the diet train, not the sustainable results train. So each stop that train takes We are running on into that gift shop and we are picking up some new diet rules and we are jumping back on the train, confused as to why we're not seeing results. And we sometimes start to lose sight of what life looked like before dieting, what's true and what's false around dieting. And we've accumulated this diet set of rules where we fear carbs, we fear sugar, we fear alcohol, we fear anything that is high calorie, we fear food overall. And we start to think as food as good food and bad food. And so we'll stay away from those bad foods as much as we possibly can. Internally, we think, all right, I can do this. I can hold out. I can go 30 days without eating sugar. I can go 40 days without eating fat. However, the problem that I mentioned in episode 91 and 92 is our metabolism is going to be slowed down when we are dieting. So, in reality, dieting actually isn't going to help us see the results that we want. But also, what's happening is our mentality is changing. It's more than just the physical changes that are happening. We are now having negative changes to our mentality. We are now having negative changes to our emotions around food, to our emotions around ourselves. And we start to just dive into this place where we are unhappy with the quality of life that we are living. We believe so fully that the physical results and happiness will come from staying away from the bad food, will come once we lose the weight. We will finally be happy when this next diet works. And we're sending ourselves down this path where we're going to follow diet after diet after diet, which is starting to train ourselves to, number one, not trust ourselves, and to number two, not trust anything else out there, which leads us to number three, being totally stuck where we are because we have now lost trust in absolutely everything and everyone. Which is why I am so much a believer of sharing the education behind what is going on with our body. Because if nothing else is working for you, tracking macros and healing your metabolism will work for you because it is bringing us back to the basics of the way that our body actually works and what we are eating. So we're able to fuel our body with real food, no meal replacement shakes, no meal replacement protein bars. We're eating real food and we're healing our metabolism, allowing us to actually have the sustainable results. And it allows us to get out of that place where we're stuck in the restrict, right? We are in that place where we're saying no to friends because we are scared that, we're going to get off track. And so to give you some personal stories for myself. So back in college, my freshman year was the worst that it ever was for me in this restrict binge cycle. I have so many stories around this. But one thing that was very, very true for me is it impacted my social life so very much. I actually lost friends because I was so terrified of going out to eat. I was so terrified of getting off track that I thought it was easier for me to stay stuck in my little dorm room, being sad, very likely falling asleep because I didn't have energy, or spending hours at the gym because I was so scared of getting off track. Many football games. I mean, I wasn't a football fan in the first place. I know it's terrible because I went to Clemson University. And I always laugh because I was just like a terrible football fan. And you would think because I have my master's degree in sports nutrition and exercise science that I would love the sport. But I love the science behind the way that our bodies work and how we can change and fuel our bodies to increase our performance and to help us lose fat and to heal our metabolism. So I nerd out about that side of things. But when it comes to the rules of football, I'm like, I don't really know what those rules are, but it's fine. And I just like cheer when everybody else is cheering. But the point being is, I spent so much time so terrified of gaining weight back, so terrified of being stuck in a place of not being happy in my body, even though I was so incredibly unhappy already. And I was terrified of the guilt that I would feel if I ate the bad food. From previous binges, I know how bad it made me feel, how unworthy, how sad, how embarrassed, how humiliated, how alone it made me feel when I would have a binge. I remember this very vivid memory of everybody is out celebrating, eating out, going out together, having a good time. But at this point in my life, I was terrified of food. And I remember ordering the double-decker, burger, whatever it was, the fries, all the sauce. It got I think they did milkshakes or something, or I somehow had some sort of dessert. And I remember being in my dorm room, eating to the point of pain and having such a huge binge, and the guilt, just this sense of overwhelming lack of worthiness and hopelessness and feeling so incredibly alone was so terrifying to me. so absolutely terrifying that the next day when I woke up, obviously digestion's off. I'm not feeling good, feeling a little bloated there. I'm just like, all right, I've got to restrict again. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I will not do that again. I have to restrict as much as I possibly can because the feelings that I had after that binge were so incredibly horrible that I did not want to get in that space again. But the problem is, the more we restrict, the more we're going to end up right back into that place where we have the binge. And it's not going to change unless we change our mindset. We change what we're eating, we heal our metabolism, and we get to bring the love back to ourselves. And it's absolutely, absolutely possible. It is not fair to ourselves. It is not fair to those around us when we are taking away our own happiness and we are letting food run that. It is not fair. It took me a really long time to understand that by restricting, I was doing a disservice not only to myself, but to those around me. I was losing friends who cared so much about me. I was made my poor family, they could tell that I was not in a good space. And we are worth more than that. You are worth more than that. Your family, your friends are worth more than that. Your life is worth more than that. Like, you are so deserving of this freedom. And so for me, I hit this breaking point, and two things can happen when it comes to our relationship with food. And this is kind of leading us into this all or nothing mentality. We get into this space where we restrict, restrict, restrict. We're in this 100%. We are going to restrict as much as we can. We are going to stay 100% whatever diet we're doing, whether that's low carb, whether that's low fat, whether that's no sugar, no carbs, whatever train station we're at, whatever it may be. That's what we're sticking with for now. What's going to happen is our body is actually going to be triggered to binge because it does not feel it is getting adequate fuel. Our body has a protective mechanism that will cause signals to go to our brain that will literally cause us to binge because our body cannot sustain the long-term restriction. And our body's not made to restrict either. If you go into episode 84, Finding Balance, Unlearning Diet Culture, and Breaking Free from the Restrict Binge Cycles, I talk a lot about binge eating. I give you the reasons in the background of binge eating. It's a very big mental game. Dieting plays such a huge piece into our happiness and our mentality. And being someone who's been in that space, it is not fun to be in that space. And our body is going to actually cause that binge eating. So when we're in this mentality of this 100%, we are going to restrict as much as we possibly can. Our body will actually not allow us to stay in that restrictive place. We have no control over that, and our body won't actually allow us to stay there. So what's happening is that we're spending so much time in this 100%, 100%, 100%, and it's restrict. And then all of a sudden we have this binge and we're like, whoop, okay, let's go for a free for all. And we think we can stay in this 100% in the restriction, but we actually cannot. What happens is we feel we have messed up. Even if it's just one piece of chocolate, we've been staying away, we feel, okay, well, I've had one piece of chocolate, might as well go ahead and have a full cookie. And we totally spiral and we think, I am already off track. I might as well keep eating. And you go into the full-on binge. You eat the cookie, the burger, the milkshake, then you get some pizza, and you're eating and eating and eating, and you're going for this completely 100% in the other direction. And for some women, it will last for one meal. It'll be just the binge, and then you'll wake up the next day probably not feeling too good, probably feeling pretty bloated. Binge eating does mess with our digestion. Our body isn't meant to handle so much food at once. It is quite literally no problem at all if you eat a burger, if you eat all those fun foods. And we don't want to be in that restrictive place. We want to get out of that all or nothing mentality. So for some women, it lasts for just one meal. For some women, it will last for the entire weekend. We were just talking about this in BP. Actually, it is very, very, very common to have this start over mentality every single weekend. And we hit this place where we're going into the weekend. And it's like, I was good all week long. I want to go out with my friends, and the free for all starts and it lasts the entire weekend. And you start to think, I'll just start over on Monday. And you start over again and again and again and again. For some women, this can go on for months. This can go on for months and months and months. And beauty of creating goals, when we are going into the space where we're restricting, we're usually doing it for a reason. Normally, we've created a goal, whether that was a New Year's resolution, whether that was prep for vacation or holiday. I know a lot of times we create these fast goals. We want to reach really fast. We're going on vacation. Oop, I want to fit into a bikini. Let's go ahead and do a quick fix. That's not the way that we want to see sustainable changes. These goals overall, they're wonderful goals. We want to have these goals. We want to feel good. When we feel good, we feel good. Everything just changes. Our quality of life changes when we are feeling good. But the problem is we dive into these quick fixes, not realizing the impact that it's going to have on our mentality, on our body, and it leads us to fall off track really fast and immediately feel like we have failed, and it causes us to spiral. So we go from this place of excitement of having this goal and this New Year's resolution, if you want to say New Year's resolutions, and you're so burnt out from pushing so hard after you've started trying to get to that goal that you end up not taking action after that burnout hits and you just completely stop whichever diet that you're doing for months at a time until you finally can calm down, until you finally have this moment where you're like, well, shoot, now I want to start again and back onto that diet train. I want to interrupt this oh so lovely podcast episode of mine to let you know that BPM, my beautiful peach mastermind, is open for enrollment. BPM is my high-level group coaching program for women who want to reverse diet to heal their metabolism from that restrictive burnout so they can lose the weight and keep it off for good. It is for women who want to increase their energy and joy for life so they can chase after their kiddos, go out to eat with their significant other, and even have wine night with the girls without that restrict, binge, and food guilt cycle. As a bonus, all of my BPM clients get complimentary access to my reverse diet course, where you will learn exactly how to adjust macros for reverse dieting on your own. This quite literally includes my own personal spreadsheets that help you customize your reverse diet for your success. I even threw in my alcohol plug-and-play tracker for you ladies. Go ahead and apply through the link in the show notes or hop over to my Instagram and feel free to send me the DM BPM sneak peek for my inside look of the program details. I can't wait to see your application and enjoy the rest of the episode. A lot of times what I see also, especially now that as I'm recording this episode, we are so close to the end of the year. So you might already be in the mindset, and I might just be about to call you out. You might already be in the mindset of, we're about to go into the holidays. I might as well just say, screw it, eat however the heck I want to through the rest of the year, and then I'll just start over next year. But didn't you say that last year and the year before and the year before? And my thing is, I love working with my clients, obviously, at any time of the year, but my absolute favorite time to work with my clients is through the holidays, when you're traveling, when these real world scenarios are coming along, because the diet world teaches us that we should not be eating the bad foods. You always see this like around the holidays, it's like how to lose 20 pounds or how to get through the holidays or, avoid the sugar. It's like all of these holiday prep. And nah, just eat the cookie. You're going to be fine. Track your macros. We're healing your metabolism. But the problem is you don't have the tools to help you navigate through those situations, which is why I love with my BPM client. I love it when they come and they tell me exactly what's going on in their life, exactly what trip is coming up, exactly what dinner party there is, where they're going out to eat, because I can help you navigate those situations to where you know exactly what to do and feel absolutely confident ordering the burger, not binge eating and moving along. And then, hey, you still feel great. Hey, you're down a pound. Hey, you're down 10 pounds. Hey, you're down 50 pounds, right? You're still feeling amazing and you don't feel like you have to make up for food. You don't feel like you have to start over. You don't feel like you have to restrict leading up to the holidays or put off your goals until the new year, which is also why I actually don't love New Year's resolutions. I know that's probably a very, very unpopular belief. And I think especially in just like the nutrition and the fitness industry, one of the huge things that pops up is everybody saying like, all right, let's set your New Year's resolutions. Like, let's do this. And maybe that's something that I should do is like a New Year's resolution podcast episode of how to not set New Year's resolutions, but to still see results. I mean, even telling you this now, the resolution here is to just take action, is to just start and to make sure that you have, which I'm actually about to talk to you about this, I have a signature framework that will help you get there. And I'll walk you through those 4 because those are things that you can bring into your life here and literally start this today. But I think it's important to know if we're already halfway through the year and you're already starting to want to give up, you're already going into that all or nothing mentality where you're going into the nothing mentality. Here's the 4 action steps that I want to walk through for you. And I think it's really important to note, you may already be on a path of some of these action steps, but you might also be on that path and just feel a little bit like you still need support there. So I will walk through these, and then I have some extra resources I can kind of think of to pull out, and I'll drop them in the show notes for you. First and foremost, we get to heal and start working on a relationship with food. This is first and foremost because for many, not everyone, but for many, the trigger to our all or nothing mentality is actually due to food that is causing us to feel good and bad food mentality. And so when we feel that we've even eaten a chocolate chip, I had a binge way back when I was still I haven't binged over a decade. It has been so long. I love food. I enjoy food. And that's because I follow my signature framework, which I'll walk through with for you in a second. But it's also because I've done the healing and I've worked through these 4 action steps. And it doesn't happen overnight, but when you have support, it will happen in a way that allows you to grow and to turn into this next chapter of your life. So for a lot of people, good and bad food can cause this spiral. And what I was saying too, way back when I was still binging, I ate an M&M, and I remember this because looking back at it, I'm like, what? So it's so wild to me that the change in where I was then compared to now, and I just want to give myself a big bear hug and be like, you're going to be okay. And so me saying this too, you are going to be okay. You are going to be okay. There's no doubt in my mind. There might be some doubt in your mind. You're scared. It's a scary world when we don't know what to do, but I have your back and you're going to be okay. You're worthy of these changes. And don't forget that. Even on the days that it's bad, it is so possible for you to have the freedom that I have and to have this just self love and freedom around food. So, the very first thing is we want to start healing our relationship with food. And for many of you, maybe you just really don't want to track macros. It changed my life. Tracking macros changed my life. And there are many, many, many women out there who I see who are tracking macros in a very strict way that does not allow them to live their life. And it creates this just like anxiety around tracking macros. We do not need to do that. When we are tracking macros in a way that's actually sustainable and that's free and allows us to eat the food that we want. And also there are ways to track where you're just having so much freedom and eating the food that you love. And tracking macros does not need to be forever. So basically, in my Beautiful Beach Mastermind, you get access to the reverse diet course as well as my C. Schmidt Nutrition and Macro Academy. That academy course includes the reverse diet course. So it's kind of like a tiered step. So you can start with the reverse diet course, then you can go into the academy. And then if you want all of the accountability, BPM, but actually currently right now, you can only get the academy through BPM. Point being is I like to teach in BPM via the academy how you can actually go intuitive after you have hit your goals. Macros and tracking macros does not need to be forever. It absolutely does not need to be forever. The point of tracking macros is to help you heal from the inside out, to get you to where you need to go. And then once you have reached that end goal, which is absolutely possible, then you can stop tracking macros and maintain those results. And that's something that I do teach in that course. And I think it's really important to know because I think sometimes when people think about tracking macros, they're like, I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, you really, really don't. I think it's so important to know that nothing is final. You can live your best life without tracking macros and you can reach your goals and then stop tracking macros. For many too, tracking macros is step one. And when it comes to reverse dieting, we want to have a very solid foundation for our macros and for healing our metabolism. So in order to have that starting point for adjusting macros, you have to have the solid macro foundation. And then from there, you can reverse diet. You can heal your metabolism. You can go into calorie deficit. And you can start fitting in the food that you love every single day. So we're having this freedom and having this ability to eat the food that we love every single day. And it takes away the fear of I can't have, or I can only have this now. And it decreases the amount that we're binging. Second, I suggest finding a game plan that fits my signature framework. And this is something that everybody can implement. So the framework, sustainable, maintainable, educational, and enjoyable. Those are the 4 core pieces to my framework. When it comes to sustainable, it has to be realistic. This means you are able to eat out, you are able to travel, you are able to enjoy your life and still see results. You do not feel restricted, okay? Number 2, maintainable. It needs to last long term. If something makes you feel like you're going to fall off the wagon, or if you are internally thinking, I can stick this out for 30 days. I can do this. And you're trying to prep yourself and hype yourself up to stick to something for a blank number of days. That is not maintainable. That is not going to be long-term. If something's going to be restrictive, it's not going to be maintainable. If it tells you you can or cannot eat something, not maintainable. So you need something that is going to last long-term, okay? Educational. If we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, if we're just leaning blindly into something, we cannot expect to keep going with it because we have no clue what we're actually doing. If we have been eating 1,200 calories and we cannot lose weight, we need to learn why eating more and healing our metabolism can help us get out of that space. We need to learn why the dieting, the restricting, and the deficits aren't working. We need to learn why we can heal our body and our relationship with food and track our macros to get ourselves into that place of freedom. And last but not least, and this is one of my favorite, enjoyable. If it is not fun, it will not be something that we want to do. And this is where it comes to, even for workouts, If you are trying to work out 7 days a week, I currently, right now, I work out 3 days a week. I shouldn't say that. I lift 3 days a week. I don't actually consider daily walks and being active as working out. That's just more of me living an active lifestyle. But I intentionally go to the gym and do a strength training workout 3 days a week, 4 days if I have time, but three is my like consistent, best I've ever looked, best I've ever felt. So I think it's important to know that doing something that's going to be enjoyable is going to fit naturally into your life. If it's not something that's going to be enjoyable for you, you will not stick to it. So when trying to figure out what your next game plan is, make sure that it follows those framework, my signature framework: sustainable, maintainable, enjoyable, and educational. There's not an actual order for that, just so you know. I realize I switched educational and enjoyable, but all the same: sustainable, maintainable, educational, and enjoyable. So that's my step 2 here. Third, and this one's one of my favorite, we have to give ourselves grace, okay? We cannot be so hard on ourselves. We cannot look back and play the if I did this. Ugh, what if I did that? There will be good and bad days, just like life will give us good and bad days no matter what we're doing, whether we're trying to lose weight, whether we're trying to reverse diet, whether we're just having a bad day at work, right? There will always be good and bad days. But we also have to give ourselves grace and let go of the past and allow it to know that it led us to where we are today, and that growth comes on those bad days. So instead of feeling like we want to avoid those bad days, we want to shut them down and we just want to close the lid on the box of the bad days and say, nope, we're not going to look at those. I don't want to think about it. Go ahead and give yourself grace and say, hey, it's okay to have those bad days. Make sure you have a support system that on those bad days, you can lean into that. You can ask the questions. You can say, hey, I need support. Today's not going so well. What do I need to do? How can I navigate this situation? Because on those days that we feel good, we obviously feel really good. We don't think we need support. We think we're totally fine. We think we're never going to have a bad day again. But we have to be realistic with ourselves that there will be good and bad days. That's just the way that life is. So when you have a solid support system that you can lean back on, and you're also giving yourself grace to say, hey, it's okay that I'm having a bad day, this allows you to learn what's going on in that day. Is it a bad day because you woke up and the number on the scale, was up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm panicking, I'm stressing out, I'm off track, and it's causing you to spiral? Okay, well, then that means that we need to start working on your relationship with the scale and how you're viewing that. Did you have a binge last night? So you woke up and you're like, oh my gosh, I am so off track. I have to start over again. I'm so exhausted. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start uncovering what those triggers are. Why are you binging? How can I support you through that? How can we get you into a space where you're not binging? We get to figure out what's going on those bad days and start to heal from the inside out and create game plans moving forward. So sure, yes, we are still going to have good and bad days. That's just the way life is. But you will also be able to have action plans and ways to navigate through those situations with a little bit more ease when you're able to have the game plan, the system, the way to navigate through. So give yourself grace and allow yourself to understand that there will be good and bad days. So when you're feeling good, amazing, lean into that. When you're feeling bad, that's okay. Give yourself some grace. Now, last but not least, and I love this one too, because I lived in the diet world for such a long time and it became a comfort zone for me. And so instead of staying in that comfort zone, which I did for a long time, I denied trying to, do the internal work. I was like, yeah, that's woo-woo stuff. I don't need to do that. Internal work, who, me? Yeah, right. And so I denied myself doing the internal work and being self-aware for a very long time. But when I started to get real with myself and when I started to do an audit to myself, it's not fun to, recognize where we are, but it's going to help you move forward and it's going to help you see what needs to be changed. And it comes back with, step 2 of giving yourself grace. And I think these actually really should go hand in hand, because when we're starting to recognize that dieting has become a comfort zone, and we start to recognize that growth cannot come if we stay in that comfort zone. That's simply just the way that it is. If you are scared to do something, more power to you, more reason to do it. If you are nervous to reverse diet, but you know that's going to help you, more power to do that. And I think that when we're going through this space of being in this comfort zone and being scared to do the self-work and being scared to think through those internal things that you don't want to think about. We want to keep them shut in that box and just not think about the scary things or the things that made us feel bad, the binge that made us feel bad. What's happening is we're suppressing those feelings and we're pushing ourselves further and further and further into a place where we're not going to leave that comfort zone and we're going to stay stuck, where we are in this current moment. So when we start to become self-aware and we start to slowly but surely, maybe just crack the little box open and pick one thing out and say, okay, we're going to take it and we're going to, give ourselves some grace. We're going to look at whatever, we're looking at now, whether that's the binge, whether that's being frustrated that we spent so many years dieting, that we've been listening to all those the diet industry. We're going to say, hey, yeah, it happened. It's okay. Acknowledge it, accept it, recognize that it happened, give yourself some grace, and let's create a game plan moving forward. It is scary. It is hard to do, but when we evaluate ourselves, it sounds weird saying that, we stop making excuses for our future. We stop self-sabotaging. We stop fearing what success is actually going to feel like. A lot of people don't take action because they're scared of success. And they think, I've been dieting for 10 years. What does life look like if I'm not dieting? What does that look like? And it looks like freedom. It looks like taking your kids out for, ice cream or on a vacation. And when they say, hey, mom, let's get donuts, you do it. You say, let's do it. And you get one too. It's, being intimate with your significant other and not wanting to cover yourself with a blanket or not feeling a little bit insecure there. It's being free around your friends and going out in a bikini and enjoying the beach days, enjoying the vacation, enjoying life. It's saying yes to that Biscoff cookie on the plate rather than thinking, am I going to be off track? Back when I was the space of restrict and binge, I would refuse to eat the Biscoff cookies and I would actually hoard them. And then I would binge on them at some point if I didn't shove them in a trash can somewhere and try and leave them. Crazy things that our mind does. But you know what? The beautiful thing is, instead of, no, we shouldn't say crazy things that our mind does because that's not giving ourselves grace. So this is a very, very good example, real world example. It happened. That's life. That's beautiful. It's okay that you're going through this. Give yourself grace and move forward, break past that fear barrier, break past that comfort zone. And you are so worthy and capable of seeing such amazing changes. So with all of this, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. As always, so excited to have you here listening. It always makes my day when you come and send me a DM and say, hey, Caitlen, I've been listening to your podcast. I am so happy. And it makes my heart, honestly, so happy. So with all of this, don't forget to leave a 5-star rate and review. Not only does that also make me happy, but it also helps get my podcast out there more, to share my education, to share this information for other women who may be struggling like you. So if you are listening to this and you are getting something out of my podcast, do this for the other women who are struggling with you. You probably saw my podcast because other women who are also struggling left a 5-star rate and review, and it made it possible for it to pop up for you. Obviously, it makes my heart so happy, and it makes me so excited to share this with more women. And it means so much to me when you can support me in doing that, because I love to support you sharing this knowledge. So with all of this, I cannot wait to see you in the next episode, and we'll chat soon. Bye, beautiful peach. Don't forget to snag your completely free high-protein macro cookbook by simply doing a 5-star rate and review on this podcast. All you need to do is submit a 5-star rate and review, then send us your name and email through the link in the show notes so we know exactly where to send your cookbook. By submitting your 5-star rate review, this will also automatically enter you into the weekly podcast macro calculator giveaway. Every week, I give away a copy of my C. Schmidt macro calculator to one lovely winner who leaves an awesome 5-star rate and review. This winner is announced every week on my Instagram story, as well as my newsletter email list. So leave that 5-star rate and review, and I'll see you in the next episode.